for the Q3, we have a very strong set of planned enhancements across our platforms. So as you all know that every year Q3 is our day zero targets for our OS platforms, both Android and iOS. So we are targeting day zero support for iOS 26 and macOS 26 and the latest Android releases to ensure seamless customer upgrades. And also, we plan to strengthen security with our secure Android reassignment workflows, enhanced loss mode protections, and expanded MTD capabilities. That includes phishing auto protection and also working on ADP alerts. And on the enterprise side, we are deepening Samsung KME and Knox integrations and introducing conditional access support for Android shared kiosk with the MFA. Also, additionally, we are planning major Apple ecosystem enhancements, innovations in app management for Android and tvOS, and productivity improvements to Email Plus with a shift towards Graph APIs. So, overall, I would say that all of these initiatives aim to keep Ivanti's platform future ready, secure, and easier to manage at scale. So, these are at a glance on what are the various high level capabilities that are coming up. Of course, there are many more than what I have listed here, though, but these are something I would like to highlight. With that, I'll start with the admin experience and I'll let Sayatan to talk about what's new with the admin experience in our upcoming Q3 releases.
Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Shayantan. I'm the latest addition to this team, and I'll walk you through the new features that we are bringing in with the Q3 release that's shipping as of now. So this is sort of a small list, and then we'll go a little bit deeper into a few of these features in the subsequent slides. So the first one is you often used to get into errors where usernames ran over 128 characters and then the import of usernames or sync of usernames would basically break. So we have overcome that issue. The names which cause errors or issues are dropped, and then rest of the syncs still complete successfully. And then you can review the audit logs to go through and figure out which users basically didn't make it and then fix them later on. The next one is, I think it was asked by a lot of you who said, just like your app updates, you need a way to control or phase the config distribution as well, put it on a schedule. So we'll go a little bit deeper into this. I have a screenshot and all to show you how this is done. This capability is now available. The next one is about notifications from MDM if the sentry is unreachable. So previously you would have downtime and you would not know that it is because the sentry is down. So now in the admin console, you get alerts, you get notified, and that allows you to take corrective action whenever this happens. The next one improves our security posture. When you're configuring SFTP to pull audit logs from the system, you can actually configure higher strength ciphers, which are supported, more of that in the documentation, which improves the security of the whole solution. Then there are more security fixes, which we don't talk about a lot in detail. And there are improvements to the API performance as well. And then last but not the least, you have now the ability to provision a secondary certificate into your Sentry so that when the primary one expires, the secondary one takes over. This helps you, avoid the downtime. It's a big deal in the production environment where you may not have enough time, or probably you didn't notice that the certificate is going to expire, and now you have a backup plan which takes over automatically, giving you that critical, air cover to replace the old expired certificate with a new one. So I'll not spend a lot of time on this slide. I already talked about the Q3 improvements that are shipping with this release. A brief look at what we are bringing in Q4. It's a lot. Again, this time we have bucketized them. What are the improvements on the admin side? There are a bunch of MTD improvements, customizable email alerts, ability to support HTML-based content for your dynamically generated pages. And we'll get into more details when we come closer to the shipping date for Q4. Okay. There are other platform improvements as well. As you can see, automated TLS certificate lifecycle management, capturing full network packet captures from the connectors, and so on. And then the subsequent quarters are, indicative. We'll get into those in a better detail when we get closer to them. So
thanks, Shatan. I know we'll have to move. There's a lot to cover, of course, and we have only a 1 hour time slot. So, but thank you so much for covering this. And of course, as Shatan mentioned, we will be talking more and more as we move on with the future quarters as well. All right. Then let's just move to the next one. So these are the details of some of the specific
Enhancements, yeah.
that's right. Yeah, enhancements, slow rollout of the config, as Shaitan mentioned, and also some of the notifications. All right, quickly moving to the Zimperium, sorry, the MTD with Zimperium and Lookout. So starting with the Lookout, there are some capabilities that you can see that are marked as asterisks, which we are working with some of the dependencies. Hence, those are more like a disclaimers that may or may not be able to make it into the release, the current Q3, but we are working through some of the dependencies. But otherwise, as we do every time, we make sure that we update the SDK to the latest version to ensure compatibility, improve performances, security enhancements, and enablement of new capabilities. Of course, keeping in mind on the day zero support for the OS releases, both from Android and Apple. So then there is phishing automatic DNS configuration. That is basically the manual DNS configuration for phishing protection can lead to setup errors and incomplete protection. So automatically configuring DNS settings to enable seamless phishing detection and protection without manual admin intervention is what we're trying to implement. Then moving on. So for the Lookout, as I said, the iOS shortcut threats and iOS developer mode and couple other the advisory risk level or something that we've been working on the dependencies sorting out. Especially the advisory risk level, calling out the advisory risk level is basically there's a tons of notifications. We are able to implement it. It's just that we are trying to figure out the user experience part of it. Do we really want to push all those notifications to our end user, or do we kind of filter those, or display on demand is what we are trying to work it out on the user experience side. That's on the Lookout. When it comes to the Zimperium, same thing, upgrade SDK to the latest version to improve security, stability, and of course the feature access and compatibility. While ADB related threats is one of the capability that is coming up where we detect and alert if ADB is enabled on devices, allowing administrators to identify and mitigate potential security risks promptly. And the other one is the managed apps whitelisting between V4 to V5. That is basically the parity feature that was missing in the past, and we worked it out with Zimperium to make sure that that is available currently. So, essentially, the problem is basically when the lack of managed app whitelisting in V5 creates functional gaps compared to the V4, which essentially limits admin control over allowed applications. While what we are doing right now is introduce managed apps whitelisting in version 5, allowing admins to specify and enforce a list of approved apps, restoring functional parity and improving device security management. And as much as day zero support, as I said, we are pretty much keen on that to make sure that we are compatible, to make sure that our upgrade onto the versions goes peacefully without any issues on both. So, like the MTD by itself, on whether it's a Imperium SDK or it's a Lookout SDK. That's mostly on the MTD, and this is some of the Lookout 4Q roadmap that you're working on. There's much more coming up, especially in Q4. We are looking at the phishing protection and some of the granular classifications and the QR code scanner and URL scanner. Then also there is more plans coming up on the phishing enhancements and also deployment and AI related capabilities yet to be discussed more in detail on what exactly those AI related capabilities that we're going to introduce. So there is a discussion going on with our partner Lookout and ourselves to see what we could bring exclusively for our customers. With the Zimperium also, there is a bunch of new capabilities. As you see that in Q4, we are also looking at the Android local proxy, custom URL feed, auto retrieve threat definitions, smishing protections on Android, and smishing protection on iOS is something there is a challenge on the implementation of the iOS. So us and Zimperium are working together with Apple to kind of go over those challenges with them and see what we can do there. So, but all in all, we'll be moving forward with the Android in Q4, followed by Q1 with the iOS and further SDK updates. And as and when we have more new capabilities, we'll be adding more into our roadmaps. And in the next update, we will have much more, the roadmap into our Q3 and Q4 of next year. All right. Coming to the Android Neurons for MDM, basically there are a bunch of new capabilities that we're bringing in again. Support IDP logout for Android kiosk. There is an asterisk again, a small disclaimer over there. Initially, as a phase one, we have made sure that we add support for local session logout when user exits kiosk. But full SAML based logout is under investigation and that is in works. So we'll be adding more information on that. But for this release, we made sure that the local logout session, we support that local logout session on the kiosk. Then Samsung KME and Ivanti better together. We are planning on GA. So this is very critical in terms of the Knox integration with Samsung and Ivanti. So the solution will include authenticating KME integration with OAuth. Also, will be listing KME under the Android Enterprise integrations. Will be tying the bulk enrollment profiles to Samsung KME source. We'll be also allowing device move operations within KME profiles, fetch and push device updates manually, and future proof to support multiple KME instances. So that is phase one, and there'll be more coming up as in what the Samsung adds more and more capabilities. We'll be adding more phases into the Knox KME. Then we have Android APIs for hide app and suspend app policies in DO mode. This is one of the key capabilities that the customers have been asking for. And that's something that we have added into our release currently. So this brings basically enabling the hide app and suspend app APIs in device owner mode to allow organizations to hide or suspend apps without needing copay mode. Then 5G slicing. This is a lockdown support for DO mode. Again, the extend server side support for locking down 5G slicing settings on the DO mode. Earlier, we did not have this lockdown enabled as much as now we do support 5G slicing both on Apple and Android. This lockdown also plays a very critical role in having it in place. So we took care of that as well as part of the overall 5G slicing support. Then we have a loss mode enhancements where we have a couple of capabilities embedded underneath that. One is block passkey biometrics login in loss mode, where we can block the passkey and biometric login while the device is in the loss mode to fully secure it. And there's also another solution that we brought in is report device location in loss mode. We can now enable device location reporting during loss mode, which basically is already available though, but it needs a server-side configuration, which we actually now added into this release. Apart from that, there is also one more capability that is not listed here, which I'm going to update the slide, is basically enhance the device information collection to report both ICCID and associated phone numbers for the dual SIM Android devices. So that's one more capability along with the day zero compatibility that we'll be focusing on and bringing in new lockdowns. Again, there are lockdowns that are being planned. I did not list it here as we are working through it. So in our late updated slide deck, you'll see a couple of new lockdowns that we'll be adding as part of the day zero release for the Android. This is at a high level for Q3 to Q2 of 2026, the new capabilities that we're bringing into the Android. So I discussed all of the Q3, and of course, there's more coming up in Q4 and Q1. A lot focused around the eSIM provisioning as well, and also the unified update controls and Google Better Together stories. I'll just quickly cover the Android EPMM, which is on-prem as well. Again, Android Day Zero compatibility and the new capabilities that we could add into our release with the new Android release that we have. Then we are also doing, as earlier in the cloud side, I did talk about the KME integration, Samsung KME. So we are doing an investigation on that. Definitely wanted to make it quicker to make this available on the on-prem as well. So you'll be seeing our timelines coming up in the next release update that we have. Then we also have a secure reassignment on Android. Basically, what we do is we implement secure reassignment process that ensures a clean device handoff by cleaning session data and enforcing re-authentication before reassignment. Then also we have the SAML registration for Android mobile at work. This is basically supporting SAML-based user registration for Android mobile network apps, enabling streamlined, secure, single sign-on onboarding for enterprise users. Then we have the EMM API deprecation. This is basically identifying and addressing all the pending EMM API dependencies to ensure smooth transition to supported alternatives, avoiding management disruptions. Then we also have change Samsung general policy workflow for Knox license activation. The solution that we are putting in this release is modifying the policy workflow to allow automatic reapplication of general policy after Knox license activation, reducing admin overhead and ensuring consistent device compliance. So that's the majority of the Android capabilities or the highlights of the Android new capabilities that we are bringing up into our Q3 release. But I'll let Manoj talk about some of his areas, then we'll get back to the app.
Yeah, so we have a lot of exciting enhancements that we have done in this particular quarter in the areas of app management, secure productivity apps, partner conditional access, and EPM experience. So I'll walk you through one by one. The first challenge that we are solving is that so currently, if there's any problem with the app update and the admins are not able to push the app updates to the devices on manual basis on Android devices, so we are giving an option now to the admins that they can. So, for example, now if they go here, this is our Neurons for NDM, and this option, like send, install, and update request option, once you click here, this pop-up will appear, and you can also send the installation or update request on demand to Android devices also. So this option is only currently available for iOS applications, not for Android. But starting with the Q3 releases, you will see this option for Android also. Next, we have improved some icon quality of the apps that we show in the app catalog. So you will see the icons looks better now. And this is already out, by the way. So you should be able to see this in the current version also. And there's a in-house app support for Apple TV OS, like any other in-house app, like iOS in-house app. You can distribute the in-house app on Apple TV OSs also. So this is a high-level roadmap for app management. So we have a lot of focus on customers' requests in our roadmap, as well as we are also working on very high priority to move to the Apple DDM app management framework. So that's the highlight. Then I'll move to productivity apps. Okay, so here, like this feature is about to support a multiple attachments import from App Connect or third-party apps. To give you an example, like for example, if you have a Word or if you have a Docs at work, and if you select a two or three files, and if you try to share it with Email Plus, only one file gets attached to the Email Plus message. So that addressing here. So now whatever files that you select in any of the Office 365 applications or even in our Docs at work, and if you try to send it with the Email Plus, all the files that you have selected will get attached to that particular email. Then you will see some improvement on in how we show the UI for calendars. Secondly, we are also giving an option to you where, like, if you create an email plus meeting invite, and currently you can't add attachments there. So you will now able to add attachments also to the meeting invite. So currently, if in Docs at work, if you want to save any files, it always gets saved into My Files. Now you will be presented with two to three options. One is the you can select to the remote site. So once you select to the remote site, the files will get saved to the site you selected. You can also save it to My Files, or you can also save it to the current folder. Okay, then link share support for Outlook. So for example, now you're using Web at Work and you want to share one link with Email Plus. So you can do that right now. But if you want to share that link with Outlook, you can't do that right now. So we are solving this in Q3 release. So for that, you have to enable the KVP, like I have mentioned here. You have to mention the Outlook app there, and once it is enabled, you will also able to share any link with the Outlook email client. This is mostly for our federal customers. So there are some certain changes happening on the app, the key sharing interfaces. So we are just making sure that our PUD app is compatible with the changes happening with the purebred interfaces. This is a roadmap for Email Plus. So some of the highlights that I can share is that we have a lot of focus on migrating to the Graph API. Plus, there is also a feature to support a multiple secondary accounts in incoming quarter for iOS. Okay. So for partner conditional access, we are rolling out a feature for device compliance support for Mac. So similarly, like iOS and Android devices, so currently you can send a device compliance posture of these devices to Microsoft Azure, and based on the compliance posture, your device will be given access to access the Office 365 apps. So similarly, you can also do that for Mac now. So that capability is will be available in the Q3 release. On EPMM admin experience side, so currently, like so any device which is not checked in, it always gets retired. But there are certain customers and there are certain device like so which is a corporate provided devices, and customers don't want to retire them, they want to wipe them instead. So we are giving this option now, as you can see in this particular screenshot. Previously it was only retired. Now you can see retired or wiped devices that have not checked in more than x number of days. So whatever days you select here, and you have to select like which devices you have to wipe, and there are certain modes also for those devices like DO, AOSP, and comp mode. So and you can wipe the Apple DP enroll devices. Of course, this is all based on the configuration that you select. So based on the configuration that you will do, the devices will either get retired or wiped. And we are enhancing this back controls related to the add device. So currently, if you see here, there's only one permission, add device in the current version. Now we are introducing two more sub permission. One is the add company device and add employee device. And depending on this permission assigned to the users of will be able to add the company owned devices or the employee owned devices. Okay. So if the device is not compliant, so currently the integrated apps at work gets blocked immediately. So users are not able to access the apps at work. So we are now introducing one control that we are giving one control to the admin that they can choose whether they want to block the integrated apps at work, or they don't want to block the integrated blocks at work if the device falls out of compliance. So currently it blocks immediately, but now we are giving a control for admin to choose whether they want to block or not block. Okay, so that's all about this EPMM admin experience. We don't have much things on EPMM app management, but we are working on migrating to the apps and books version 2 API. Plus, we are also working on one major features like public app distribution in HRN environment. And of course, I talked about the DDM app management framework, right? So that's what we are planning to migrate to in the coming quarters.
All right, iOS and macOS roadmap. And again, as we all know, Q3 is very critical when it comes to the OS platforms, specifically Apple, the WWDC that happens every Q3, beginning of the Q3. And we make sure that we align with the day zero compatibility and also make sure to add as many new capabilities as possible into the release. So with that, there is a bunch of new capabilities that we are adding into the Q3. One of that is manage beta updated in setup assistant. So with iOS 18 and macOS 15, admins can enroll devices directly into Apple's program during setup. If required and missing, the device returns 403 error indicating it needs a beta program token, and the device remains in the beta track once enrolled. Then we have Apple Access Management. Again, Apple Business and Apple School Manager now lets you control where managed Apple accounts can be used and what services users can access. Key controls include device based sign ins, managing iCloud access, passkeys, and Apple developer programs. Also supports collaboration tools like Keynote and communication apps like FaceTime and iMessages. Network relays, QDNs keys. So, what this about is Apple has enhanced security for network relays using fully qualified domain names, which is basically the FQDNS. improve secure communication between devices and relays, which simplifies setup and integrates better with enterprise networks and VPNs. All right, this feature, it's a certificate supported via device declarative management, DDM. So DDM will support certificates needed for passkeys attestation from a corporate CA. Works from iOS 15, macOS 13, visionOS 1.1, and does not require supervision. Supported enrollments are basically the user enrollment, device enrollment, and automated enrollment. It initially supports identity certificates and SCEP certificates to begin with. Apple dynamic restrictions. New Apple restrictions now cover all platforms, which are basically iOS, iPadOS, macOS, tvOS, visionOS, and watchOS. Restrictions update in real time with Apple's new releases. No MDM updates needed. Available now in Sandbox for testing if you would like to start checking what this is about. Predicate testing. Apple again has introduced a feature to test predicates for syntax and correctness before deploying them. The system simulates sending predicates to devices and reports if they will work or have errors. So you can first test it, make sure it's working, then you want to push it out. Safari extensions, this again iOS 18, iPadOS 18, and macOS 15 support MDM management for Safari extensions on supervised devices. Admins can control allowed, disallowed extensions and website access by domain. And we now support wildcards in Safari extension domain policies as well. Web content filter for macOS. So macOS now supports web content filtering via MDM. Currently, only the plugin management is supported from Apple configuration, and customers can configure plugin identifiers and certificates for secure web filtering. All right. So then we are going to touch base some of the capabilities that are on our client, which is our Ivanti Go. Relocation of notifications Ivanti Go. This is a placement change. Notifications in Ivanti Go are moving to the top of the screen for easier visibility and a better user experience. The notifications icon will be removed from the bottom menu bar. So as you see on the screenshot, it's going to be moved up there. So this is essentially to just give you the background. There is a lot more coming up into our client, very exciting capabilities that we'll be revealing in the upcoming announcements. So with that, we're going to also make sure not only along with making some space into the real estate space in the app, we are also making sure that alongside usability aspect of it as well. So with that, we started with moving the notification icon up there, and you will see more and more exciting capabilities coming up. Auto launch, you want to go at registration via ADE. So you want to go security feature requires the app to be launched at least once. So MDM cannot auto launch apps due to Apple restrictions. So Ivanti now uses single app mode during automated device enrollment to auto launch Ivanti Go. So once setup is complete, single app mode is removed and the device is handed to the user. So enabled via single app mode, app config key, zero touch activation is true, and we will have to distribute to the device group. So this is a setup how we kind of enable the single app mode and the auto launch, how the auto launch happens. So this capability has been tested by some of the customers as early access testing, and there seems to be pretty good in terms of solving the problem, the current problem the customers are facing with the auto launch of this application. So please do feel free to leverage this and test it and let us know your feedback, and we'll work hard to make sure we enhance more and more on top of this. All right, new support tab. Earlier, I did talk about moving the notifications up, and also now you see there is a new support tab that has been added in Ivanti Go based on customer feedback. So provides an intuitive place for end users to quickly access support, contacts, and resources. The support tab is configured directly from the Neurons for MDM console. So the end user is able to leverage the support tab with whatever the a lot of the capabilities, or I would say more of requirements that the end user would have that they'll be leveraging through support. Of course, whatever the admin is allowing them, that will be configured on the server side on the console. All right, so the new support tab configuration. So this is basically the Ivanti Go privacy config is now repurposed as Ivanti Go settings for broader client configurations. So now admins can configure URLs, phone numbers, emails, and custom details for the support tab. So all this info is set here will appear in the new support tab for the end users. So that's the earlier one when I said that there's a configuration that needs to be set on the console. This is the configuration we are talking about. All right, a quick touch base on the Windows roadmap also. Windows eSIM configuration for Windows 11. Ivanti Neurons from MDM now supports eSIM configuration for Windows 11 devices, and customers must obtain a server number URL from their carrier for this. And once the profile is installed, the device connects the carrier URL to activate the eSIM, and customers provide a file with the device details and should check requirements with their carrier. Then another capability is about notifying admin when BitLocker key is not saved. So saving the BitLocker key via MDM is supported, but external issues can prevent successful saving. So previously, admins had no visibility if a key was missing. Now, with the Ivanti and NMDM will now notify admins to the console in the console if it detects that the BitLocker key hasn't been saved. So those are the capabilities on the neurons for MDM. And let's also talk about what are the new capabilities on the iOS and macOS on the on-prem EPMM. So starting with iOS improvements, new option to preserve the data plan during the device wipe operations. So basically the preserve data plan checkbox is now enabled by default to avoid any accidental loss of cellular plans. And same as the neurons for MDM, we have a network relays, FQDNS keys. So as I mentioned earlier, Apple improved handling of FQDNS for better security between devices and network relays. It basically simplifies configuration and improves integration with enterprise networks and VPNs. Then we have the profile for Ethernet authentication for iPads. So iOS 17 introduced 802.1x Ethernet support for iPads. So Ivanti adds configuration support for certificate-based Ethernet authentication on iPads. Then we have software update enforcement to pick latest version. So DDM now allows you to enforce updates to always install the latest OS version automatically. This basically helps organizations keep devices current with controlling update timing and user experience. It fully automates a software update lifecycle. So I think this is one of the key capability as well that can be leveraged ASAP. Then ability to run macOS scripts without the Mac agent. So Apple DDM or the device declarative management now allows pushing macOS scripts without needing an agent or a client. This is supported for macOS 15 plus. So new scripts tab lets admin upload or write scripts and distribute them via configurations. Enhancements include adding roles for script management and renaming scripts in the backend. So to highlight that earlier we do have dependency on having a Mac agent to deploy the scripts on the device, but currently that's not a dependency anymore. So without having an agent, you can still continue to use the scripts, pushing the scripts onto the devices. All right, also touch basing on the mobile at work, the client on the on-prem, relocation of the notifications tab, where we are moving the notifications tab on the top right corner, and simplified enrollment flow for end users. So what does this mean is Apple's changes require users to manually download profiles during registration. So previously users had to switch to Safari for download instructions. Now Ivanti Go shows these instructions directly in the app, simplifying the process for the end users. So there is no switching between the Safari browser and switching back to the app. It's all completely embedded into the app. Again, the auto launch of Ivanti Go at registration via automatic device enrollment. This is again as equally important both on-prem and on cloud, where we would want the users to be able to leverage the auto launch of the app, which resolves n number of problems in terms of compliance. So basically, as you all know, that Ivanti Go and Ivanti Mobile at Work requires the app to be launched at least once. So again, Apple does not allow MDM to auto launch apps. So we did come up with a solution where you can still use a single app mode during the automatic device enrollment to automatically launch Ivanti Go. So once its registration is completed, single app mode is removed and the device is ready for the user. So it all happens in split seconds. All right. So that's on the overall Apple and macOS, both on-prem and on cloud.